Love, light, and blessings. This is Shamanic Irate Priestess here, and I wanted to make a video about my journey with Cartomancy. I know I was supposed to make it last month, but a lot of stuff came up last month. So in yesterday's video, I had talked about wanting to make that video, hopefully before this month's over, at least this one and another one on exorcism and some other videos that I wanted to make in the upcoming week. So this video is not going to be about how you conduct a reading with playing cards or how you do cartomancy. So it's not a tutorial. So just letting everyone know. It's basically my personal journey with cartomancy and my spiritual evolution with it and how it evolved into other forms of divination for me. So before I started reading playing cards, I used to read water. So in those clear glass cups you could get at the dollar store, like champagne glasses. When I used to, I grew up always having a mom who had a white altar, which I later learned was an ancestral altar. It was just basically always in my mom's living room, and I never thought anything of it. I thought like everybody had a white table. I have a video when I first started about, it's called the white altar if you want to learn more about that. And in that chalice, so in that glass chalice or cup, wine glass, my mom would fill it up with cold water, and she taught me how to read the bubbles that appear in the cup. And I would do readings with that. I would also do readings with eggs in a cup of cold water in a clear glass, champagne glass. And I would see her do readings like that for clients as well. After she would do like a spiritual cleansing, she would either leave the egg intact or open up the egg and conduct a reading with it. And so that was my first experience with divination. Um, After that, I started to have clients because I wasn't reading anybody professionally. And so I would conduct readings with cartomancy that I have self-taught myself and also been exposed to it with my family lineage. So they kind of got me on the road to it, and then I furthered my knowledge of it. So yes, just a plain deck of playing cards is what I was performing readings with in the very beginning. Um, they were more like family, friends. They were free readings that I was doing when I first got on this path. I've been on this path for almost 16 years now. And for a long time, I was practicing divination with chalice, and then it evolved to cartomancy. And because I am someone who can channel, and I am clairaudient, clairaudient, and clairsentience. So I can see visions, I can see spirits, I can see literally into the future. I can hear spirits talking to me in my ear, which startles as ringing, and I can actually make out the words that they're speaking at a higher frequency. And I can also feel things. I am empathic, and I can feel things from other people. So this is just a quicker way for me to connect. And what I loved about cartomancy is there really isn't any illustration, so it allows my clairvoyance to flow. Another thing that I also do with playing cards is rituals, which some of you might call spells. I can do very powerful spells with cartomancy. It is something I grew up around. It is something that I do practice. I use it for consultations when I'm doing a working for someone, even for myself or a client or something like that, or a family member. I always do a session, a pre-consultation, to see what the spirits have to say. What is it that you need from? Do you really need this ritual or healing? What can we expect after it's conducted? Things of that nature. Do the spirits grant permission for this to be performed? Will it be successful, etc., 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 and how to go about it. So cartomancy I also use as divination for any type of working or healing before it's done, during, the working, okay, because my workings are long-term working. So when I do a working for a client, you can expect me to be working on your calls anywhere from 7, 9, or even 21 days in some cases, depending on the complexity of that working. I don't just like one candle one day and boom, it is done, because I'm looking for long-term results. I use cartomancy in the spell itself. Like, I know some people use petition papers. There's certain meanings and certain things that are attached to cartomancy in my experience. So I would do a spell work with the actual playing cards with other tools and things like that. So I use it in the actual working. Um, and I also use it to read clients and to read myself. Lenormand and tarot came from this. So in Haiti, this is very popular in other parts of the world. Like, before there was tarot and before there was Lenormand, there was playing cards. This is what our ancestors used before the fancier stuff. Because I started working on a psychic hotline, and I began that journey 6 years ago, because I went professional, where I was actually doing full-time readings, because before that I was a nurse. So divination and things was what I would did on the side. And when I really got into my spirituality 6 years ago, sorry about that. But anyway, so once I went professional with my readings and things like that, I started to get told by the administration of that particular psychic hotline, I'm not going to mention who they are, that this wasn't marketable. And it was a lot of things. The reason why I don't really work there anymore, I haven't worked there in like over a year, because I started reading with my hair wrapped and really embracing the African part of my culture and the native part of my culture. And I was told that that wasn't marketable, and then I shouldn't be wrapping my head online, even though for me it was religious reasons and things like that, and for protection reasons. So they kind of were like, you should try something like a different form of divination. The problem with tarot, because yes, I grew up in witchcraft and things like that, but I also grew up with a very Catholic mother. And she always saw tarot as like demonic, even though like what she will be doing, some people will call spells and things like that. She will always say she was Christian and she was positioning saints, even though I later found out they were actually Orishas and Loas and things, but that's like another video. But so I always was scared of the devil card. So I continue to do readings with this anyways, but for myself and personally, I started looking for tarot decks that did not have the devil in them. So the first one I discovered, that's when I discovered Doreen Virtue 6 years ago. And I bought myself the Angel Tarot. But I didn't like that it had words on the bottom, because I felt like that hindered my intuition. So what I did with it, I cut out the wordings that were here. I trimmed my deck. And then I studied traditional tarot and didn't read anything that had to do with this. Like, I did not go by this, because I went by um, the Rider-Waite interpretations of the cards. Like, I knew that the waters represented the suit of cups. So I would read the Ace of Water as the Ace of Cups, so on and so forth. So even though I was using this, I was given on very blunt, because that's my style. You know, I don't sugarcoat when I read. I do it with love, but I'm very honest and things like that. Whereas this is like a softer version of tarot, which is something that does not resonate with me. But I did like the artwork in it. And I did like that the elements have different colors and the borders, like stuff like that. So I was using this personally as I studied, still using cartomancy, but studying tarot for like a full year and things of that nature. In my second year of reading professionally, I didn't want to read clients with this deck really. So I discovered as I was doing and discovering that there was people on YouTube that did card reviews, such as Colleen's Driven Story and other channels, I discovered a Robinwood tarot, and this was the deck that I was doing my professional readings on because it did not have like Satan on it. And so I exclusively started to read with this. So moving further and further away from cartomancy because I was told that it wasn't marketable and things like that. Then I read with this deck for like a year, continued my studies of tarot, tried to go into Lenormand, which I can read really well with Lenormand, but it isn't really a system that calls to me for some reason. I can read it. It's not that I can't read Lenormand or anything like that, but it just wasn't anything that called to me. I continue to read Cartomancy for myself, use it in spell work, and things like that, but not for clients. Like I had said in the site that I worked in, they were very controlling and things like that, with their what I was allowed to use and not use and things like that. Then on my third year, I evolved to had a dream about this deck. And there was a German lady, I forget what her channel is. She did a review of Robinwood because I had dreamed about it. So I would type in like keywords and Robinwood Tarot came out. And I have a different one because I edged it and I kind of lived to regret edging it. Because it would, like when I would do readings, like the marker would get on my fingers. So I'm not an edge person. So I started reading with the Robinwood Tarot. And I found it to be really good. And stuff like that. And this is when I finally embraced this card. So we're already on my third year of reading professionally, and I finally like embraced this card. Finally made my peace with the Devil card. Continue to study tarot. I still do. Like I'm always studying because I feel like you're always gonna learn something. So read with this deck exclusively for a year. Kind of, moved on from Robinwood, but still keep it. And then I found this Oracle deck. I think that's what it is. And I just found this to be such an intuitive hit for me too. It is my all-time favorite Oracle deck. I started using this in my practice too. For a long time, like a year. Just really loving this deck for a lot of ancestral work. So that started evolving into using, because I just talk to ancestors. They talk to me very clearly. But for some reason with this deck, a lot of powerful experiences with it when it comes to at least my ancestors and stuff like that. They love this deck. Which is kind of a Normandy. So I don't know, you just kind of don't want to go in the box now. I hate when you like everything fits and then all of a sudden you want to put it back and then like all of a sudden it doesn't fit. It's like, why don't you fit? They put you in there in the first place when they made you, so it's just weird to me. I hate cardboard box packaging and stuff. I've invested in so many tarot bags because of the poor packaging, but I put this deck away recently too. Haven't been using it. You know how that goes. Eventually, in my fourth year, I went to the original, and this just called to me. I love this deck so much. Not this particular version. It was the Radiant Weight, but we're just gonna use this one just because it's the one that I found first. So I wasn't trying to dig through too much. So then I went to the original, which was the Waitsmith Tarot. So Rider Waite, sorry. There we go. Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck, and it just called my soul. Like, I felt as much connection to this deck as I do to Cartomancy. And these days, I stick with tarot, and Cartomancy are my favorite forms of divination other than purely channeling, which I do perform during my shamanic healings and my healing rituals. I don't use tools to do that. So, just love this deck to death. So, once I got to that, I felt home. I felt beautiful. And I just had such a connection to it. And as I continue to discover my lineage and my ancestors, I have ancestors that just love a lot of tradition and things like that. Then I got into a Lenormand. I finally made my piece of Lenormand, which I thought I had it here, but I don't. It's in my ancestor altar, so I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to pause the video real quick so I can end the video and show you how I started to connect with Lenormand. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, 1 second. Then I had a dream as I came back into Cartomancy. Oof, I feel the spirits around me because they love when I talk about Cartomancy and stuff in my spiritual journey. Once I got back into Cartomancy, within the last year, so now we're going into my 5th year, when I finally decided that I needed to go into my own business. It started being a want in the 4th year, started, saving up the money to invest in that, because a lot of people don't understand. I had to copyright my name. I had to invest in a site that accepted payments, because when you guys purchase a reading, a certain amount of that money goes to PayPal and a certain amount I keep. Now, it's a better cut than I had when I was working the psychic hotline, which they only gave me 30% of what I was making. 70% went to the actual site. Started off at 50, and then eventually when they got new owners, they only let us keep 30% of the cut, which forced me to charge a lot of money for readings just to get by. Now, I can keep a bigger cut, which I was able to lower down my prices. But when you're self-employed, you have to invest on your site, you have to invest in PayPal, and you have to invest in the things that keep your divination going: books, crystals that you use for healing for others, decks, a lot of stuff. You need things. So anyway, so I had a dream. This one's not in order because I use this deck a lot. And I was never, like, I could connect with Lenormand, like I said, but it just never was my favorite form of divination until I discovered the Pixies Astounding Lenormand. And once I got this deck, I had a spirit actually interpret each and every one of the 36 cards with a tarot deck card next to it and a Cartomancy card next to it. And I was like, is there like a Rider-Waite form of Lenormand deck out there somewhere? And I looked it up, and yes, there is, and I bought it. And I just connected with it instantly, and I started doing readings with this deck as well. These days, I mostly have it on one of my ancestors kind of has claimed the deck, so I asked her to borrow it just to show it to you guys real quick. But it's always being charged there. So I use this a lot too if I'm going to do any type of workings with a client, for a client healing or anything like that. So basically, Cartomancy helped me to come full circle. Learning the tarot and Lenormand, it didn't take me long to to learn it and understand it, because a lot of people I know find it really hard to learn tarot and things like that, because I think maybe because I read it clairvoyantly, I don't know, but divination comes, like, I don't want to use the word easy, but it kind of does. Like, it is something that really resonates with me, and I got it really quickly. I was able to be very receptive to it, and I think it has to do with because I started off with reading chalices and reading eggs, and then going into cartomancy. I always was used to reading without illustrations, if that makes sense. So I think that's why, because I always had the gift of clairvoyance. And I was always like one of those people that just never knew why I knew something, but I just knew it. So I feel like I was kind of just open, like born open with like my third eye was always open because I had a lot of spirits when I was younger torment me a lot. So I used to see all of this as a curse, dreaming things that would happen, telling people things that would happen, thinking something and making and like manifesting things. Like I always thought that was a curse. And I've come to see that in my almost 40 years of life on this earth, that it is both a blessing and a curse to a certain extent. But I try to see it more as a blessing. So that has been my journey with Cartomancy. I recently returned to it again on a full-time basis. So when you book a reading with me, either I'm going to use tarot deck or most likely Cartomancy. It's kind of what I feel more drawn to that day. But I decided to just be myself. I love cartomancy. I love reading decks of cards. I love tarot, and I just learned to go with my intuition in these last 6 years that I've been doing this professionally. So much love, light, and blessings. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'm gonna go pick up my youngest daughter. The bus stop is like literally 2 seconds away, so I'm gonna go pick her up. But until the next video, guys, love and light. Much blessings to you. And hopefully you always walk in both light and shadow because that always creates a real balance of light and blessings. Bye.